Hey, and welcome everybody to another Intent Company Live. We got Thursday, February 1st. Boy, 1 month already down. So thanks everybody for joining. We are on day 14 of our 75 lives. And thanks everybody for joining. Thanks everybody for who's been watching and providing all the positive feedback. Really appreciate it. Looking forward today to jumping in. We're going to get some pretty practical on some cool automation techniques, automation strategies, maybe more so than techniques. We're going to talk about the top 10 things that you should be automating for your business. So it's going to be really good stuff to dig in on today. And just want to remind everybody, again, every Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Central Time, we are going live, doing our 75 lives. You also have a chance during these 75 lives to participate in our Feed the Hungry program, where we are heavily discounting our core workshop, our Focus and Fire workshop. So you can get that for only $200, and then we will take all the proceeds and send it over to Feed the Hungry, a great program. Also want to let you know we got a bunch of free tools that you can take advantage of. Go over to intentcompany.com/live, and over there you'll have access to all the different things that we mention on these lives, including links to join the Intent Company group and get more trainings, tools, templates. We've got a purpose-driven community. It's a great thing. We're actually about to launch the official app for it and everything, so that's going to be cool. If you are someone who has a business, already has a decent customer base, I definitely recommend you check out our WOW campaign blueprint. It's how you wow your customer, turn customers into raving fans. And so it's all about how do you over deliver, how do you create amazing customer experience and market to your current customer base to expand your relationships, referrals, reviews, reorders, all that stuff. And we also have our customer journey assessment. So if you're interested in learning more about customer journey marketing, how do you get people to be aware that you exist, get them to grow in their affinity, grow in orders and advocacy? That's a great tool, great place to start. So you guys can help me out a ton by getting our message out there. Hey Braden, why don't you help us out?
Hey guys, welcome back, and make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and make sure to hit that bell for notifications.
Excellent as always. Thank you, Braden. And I'm going to talk a little bit later today, or in this live, about some other videos that we had Braden make that are going to be part of our automation system, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. So we thank you guys. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Thanks for participating, sharing, liking, doing all that stuff. It helps us a ton get the message out and get some action going behind these 75 lives. So, like I said, today we're going to go over the top 10 things to automate in your business. And maybe it's not the top 10 for your business. Every business is a little different, but these are definitely 10 things that you should have automation systems in place for. And I'm just going to use my digital whiteboard here and kind of like map out some stuff. But the reason you want to automate is automation is like reliability, right? If you have components of your business that are in a well-run system and it's going to do certain things at given points, that creates more reliability. I always say system scale, people don't. And what I mean by that is most companies today, the core systems that they're using, the way they do things is mostly predicated on the person that's doing it. And you may have some really awesome people that do it excellent, and you have some people that aren't quite as good, and it's not quite up to par, right? Some of your standard operating procedures aren't met. There's things missing. This thing didn't get signed. You didn't get the document. It's just the way it is all the time. So by taking inventory of the best processes, the best things you have in place, what do you want to happen? And then we build a structure and a system around it. It frees up a lot more time for your people to focus on what they do best. So you get more reliability, more consistency, and your people can operate out of their superpowers. So I'm definitely not somebody who is trying to get you to create this fully automated business so you can just sit on the beach and you don't need any employees and all that. I don't think it works that way. And sounds good, but in my experience, it never quite gets there. So we're really using the technology and the tools to create the reliability, to create process, to create systems, so that we can scale easier and you can get your people to operate out of their unique superpowers. Now, let's actually before we dig in on some examples, let me switch over here. So this is I'm actually not going to spend too much time in this, even though this is like our automation or workflow tool, whatever you want to call it, automation workflows. But the thing that's important to realize about the way an automation works and the way you need to be thinking is the kind of phrase to kind of frame everything is, if this happens, then do that. If this, then that. If this, then that. If this, then that. So you always need a trigger, an action, and then either a consistent action or another trigger. So it's, if this happens, then do that. And so you see like our, initial kind of starting off point is triggers. And so just to kind of give you, a framework for what's possible inside your CRM, right? Anytime your contact information changes, anytime, birthday reminders, this one right here, tags are super important. And tags are basically when you assign a label to a contact, right? So what are some ways you could tag somebody? Well, let's say if they filled out a form, you could tag them with the form that they filled out. If they purchased something, you could do a purchase tag. If they opened an email, clicked on a link, went to a web page. I mean, it's like any kind of activity that you can measure inside of your CRM, your tool, you can tag that person. And then that's a great starting off point. So, they got this tag. When anytime a customer gets this tag, we want to do this, this, and this. So you'll hear me talk a lot when I go through the examples of like tags, because tags is probably the most common trigger to initiate an action with. And then you get things like dates and notes and tasks. This is a big one, right? So like if a task was created, if there was a task reminder, or even if a task was completed, right? Like what do you do? Okay, task was done, check the box. Well, now what do we do? And so that's another big one that we'll be using quite a bit of. And then you have some more event-based stuff, like a customer replied to an email, or somebody submitted a survey, submitted a form, filled out a lead form on Facebook. Appointments is another big one that you'll build automation off of, right? We'll talk about actually appointment reminders is one of the top 10. So what happens when someone creates an appointment? What happens when somebody reschedules? What happens when somebody cancels a meeting, right? There's when someone does any of those events, there are next steps that the technology can actually do for you to get more of your desired action, which I would assume would be to get more people on calls, talking to them, and then that leads to the next step, the opportunities, right? So sales, we'll talk about that in a minute as well. So, when opportunities change, when something happens in your pipeline, when something doesn't happen in your pipeline, what do you do with all that? Stale opportunities, what do you do with that? And then we have affiliates, membership. We're probably not going to talk too much about these here, but I wanted to just kind of give you the idea, right? Like that's a trigger. When that stuff happens, do this. What's the do this? Well, let's click on that. These are the actions. So actions could be things like updating contacts database, or data of the contact, maybe assigning that contact to a particular person, editing a conversation, adding a task, right? If something happens, hey, add this task. Send an email, send a text message, make a phone call, social media communications. Those are going to be very common. Right? If this happens, send this type of email. If that happens, send that email, send that text message. And then you have kind of even more advanced stuff, which I probably won't get into advanced automation. I want to give you some concepts and some ideas so you can look through your business and be like, what are we doing now kind of manually that we could actually create an automation system for? And that is, I would say there's probably not a business that I've worked with at some capacity where probably 15, 20% of the hours that their operational teams are doing what they do that you couldn't create automation for. And it's not just, I'm using a, kind of CRM automation platform, but there's all kinds of stuff. I remember I worked with this one client who would make like, kind of these purchase orders or load orders for truckers that were picking up loads, and they would manually like write in like every item and like addresses and all this stuff. And we just used a simple spreadsheet, and we just put a list of all of their products, all of their addresses on one tab. And as soon as you started typing, it auto looked through that list and then pulled in the information out of that. The client told me that saved him, I forgot it, but tons of hours. And it was a very simple process. But you got to think about that. What are the things you're doing on a regular basis that you can create some sort of system to create more reliability, more scalability, free up more time, and then that free time is something that you get to give to your organization to do more creative work, be more personal, getting on the phone with people, the human element. I believe technology should support and expand the human element, not take away from it so it's not required anymore. So some of these more, advanced tools we probably won't be talking about today. But all right, let's dig in, shall we? All right. Number 1, welcome communication. So this is really big, and we get this a lot. Again, it seems like a real no-brainer, but what do you do as soon as someone makes contact with your business? Right now, what are some of those contact points, right? Well, you could have, let's say like your contact page. This is where you get to see my messy handwriting. So hopefully you'll read it all right. So you think about your contact form. You've got your newsletter. That's another common option, right? Somebody fills out the form on there. What about even the first time they make a phone call, right? Or submit an inquiry, any kind of thing like that, right? Where somebody's making an action, right? And so what we want to think about is when somebody makes that action, what do we want to do that we can automate to create a better customer experience and lead them into the area that we want them to go, lead them down the process, make that, a lot simpler, right? So for each of these, it's going to be a little different. Like a contact form could be like, and usually when you think of somebody's contact form, maybe yours is like this. It's like name, email, comments, right? Well, what about instead? What if on that contact form, you had kind of like a radio button and you talked about like maybe department or team, and you had options on that form such as sales, support, or whatever, your other thing is. So when they're putting in the name and they're putting in their email address, they kind of check the box for what they're looking to do, which area they're going, right? Well, this allows you, if you remember from our meeting, our live last week, we talked about personalization, automation, optimization. Well, these kind of details, these data points are now helping you personalize it more, right? Because if you think about it, if someone's doing a contact form for sales versus support, there's a very big difference there. One's not your customer, they want to buy something. One is your customer, wants to support. So you probably have completely different places that you want that message to go. You have probably different language that you want to reply back. In fact, you may even have different details that you might want to collect in that process. And so by them selecting this and just adding a really simple, radio button where they pick which one they want, you now can send this message 2 different directions, right? And so you got to think when you're receiving an inquiry, you got kind of two communications that I believe you should send. The first communication, we'll just keep this on this line. So this line right here, this communication should be some kind of confirmation message. So you're sending this email back to the client or whoever they are, the person who submitted the form, and you're letting them know, hey, we received your inquiry, And then you should let them know what the next steps are. What is your, standard operating procedure when somebody submits an inquiry? How long does it take for somebody to get back to them? Is it end of day? Is it 48 hours? Is it whatever? Well, 1, you need to establish that. 2, you need to communicate that. And then 3, you need to deliver on that. So that's really important. And so this is all part of it. Like, hey, you should have a procedure. Like we respond by end of day for everybody who has these requests. And to be honest, it's going to be different probably between sales and support. You might even have different levels of support. You might have tier 1 support, tier 2 support, tier 3 support. Well, there should be different communications. You could get really dynamic with this. And so 1, yes, you could have a confirmation when somebody hits it, but it'd be really good to email them and give them more information. Also, what other details could you give them of value that may even answer their question beforehand? So if it's a support request, do you have a help desk? Now, do you have a help dot, your domain that already has like frequently asked questions and links to things like that? Well, why don't you include that in the confirmation email? Because that could just take care of some of the problems right away. If it's sales, maybe you also send them a link to a video and it's from from you, the founder, or your head of sales who says, wow, thank you so much for reaching out. We're, excited to talk to you. Just to give you an idea, this is what we're going to do. Here's a couple links. You could check out our product page or whatever. So you immediately are just delivering value. You're giving information. You're pouring it out in a way that's going to say like, wow, these guys are super responsive. Maybe they did answer my question or gave me other ideas, but you're building affinity. And so again, remember, you got to think, know, like, believe, trust. And so how can you use this initial communication as a way to do that? Again, I could do an hour on each of these elements. So I'm going to try to just do broad strokes to get you thinking about it, but we can dive in deeper on some more advanced automation around any of these elements. Okay. So confirmation is that first communication. The next communication, which is super important, is what I would call a notification. So confirmation goes back to the person who submitted the information. The notification, rather, is internal. So this is going to somebody in your organization. Now you got to decide, how do you want to submit internal notifications? What tools do you already have in place? Are you creating a task? Are you creating a ticket? Is it just going to be an email to the sales manager or an email to the support person? Is it going to be more than one? Does one person get that notification? Does a whole team get that notification? Are you going to require people to do something to show that they've actually received that notification? They've checked the box, received, assigned to Tom. Tom's going to take care of it. So you got to think, what are your best practices around what you do to make sure that the people who are requesting information are getting contacted in a timely manner, and that it's, you got to build your SOP, your standard operating procedure, and then use the technology to support it. Now, again, if you have, let's say, like you have a tier 1, support and everyone gets contacted within 2 hours, well, then that needs to get to some kind of task or accountability or timer to make sure that what you said was going to happen happens. All right, so maybe that hits a clock, or there's an extra follow-up, or whatever the case may be. So again, this is broad strokes, but these are simple things that you can do. And the cool part, again, about an automation is once you build it, it runs. Now we can improve it, and that's part of the optimization thing, which we'll probably do a whole nother live on. But you build a system, it's going to create results, and then you can figure out how that impacted that. Again, one little tip. I'm probably spending way too much time on one part of part 1. This may be a part 2 or 3 kind of video here. We'll see how far we get. The other thing with support, not only can you send them the help desk like we talked about, but I would have to wager that you probably get 80% of your requests probably come from like 5 to 10 questions, probably 5 questions. How do I log onto this? Where's whatever the case may be. You could literally, in this email towards the bottom of it, put like FAQ and list the top 5 questions that everybody tends to ask right there. Not just give them the help desk where they could search, but if you already know that these are the questions that most people ask, you can literally answer them before they even get it. So just another little piece there. All right. Let's move on. I need a bigger eraser. All right, newsletter. I'm going to go quicker on these last ones here so we can move on to the second one. So newsletter. So everybody has a newsletter. It's typically not used that wonderfully. So, do you have a newsletter on your site? Where is it? Is it just a link where somebody can submit an email on the bottom of your page? 1 second. Give you the mute there. You don't have to deal with that. So most people, what they do is they collect an email address on the newsletter, and then they have a monthly newsletter, and that monthly newsletter will go off, and you got a new person on it. But we're talking about a welcome sequence. You got to think you got to think moments, right? All automation is really all based off of moments. In a moment, someone did something, so they have an intent. They wanted something to happen. They were looking for something to happen, and now you have an opportunity to support them in that moment. The second that someone put their email address in to say they want to be a part of your newsletter is probably the highest moment of their awareness about who you are, and I want information from you. I care about what you have to say. So rather than waiting like 12 days until your new monthly newsletter comes out and they're like, wait, who's this person again? And the moment's passed, immediately do something for them, right? And so like a welcome sequence for a newsletter, you could do so many different things. I have some clients that we build their brand story, right? So as soon as someone gets into the newsletter, it's going to go through, probably like let's say a 3 to 7 email, depending on what you could do. Could be email, could be text as well, but a 3 to 7 email drip sequence. All right. So day 1, they get 1 email. Day 2, they get an email. Day 3, day 5, day whatever. And you basically have maybe like, a week or 2 worth of emails that as soon as they have signed up, they've shown they're interested in getting information from you, you're sending them information, right? And so a brand story is like a great thing to do. We have, if you have any free tools, downloads, cool things you can send, right? Like we're doing all of our, our intent company group and customer journey assessment and the WOW campaign blueprint. These are free tools that we use to give to businesses that will actually give them real value. It'll serve them, support them. And then that triggers a whole nother automation, which we'll talk about in a second. But free tools, if there's, maybe like I don't want to say a directory. What do we want to call it? I call it the Sweetwater email, and I'll give some props to Sweetwater. If you guys don't know that company, it's an amazing brand. They sell pro music stuff, and they got some amazing gear. But every time you buy something from them, and that's, again, this kind of fits into the post-purchase thing, but you get an email, and that email has a list of like the CEO, the VP of operations, this, and this, gives a little bio on who they are, and says, and if you want to contact that person, you can click here and email them directly, right? So for them, they really pride themselves on being accessible and standing behind everything that they do. So they kind of like, give all their information. I'm sure their alias email. So it's not like you're flooding the CEO's email, but it's getting to someone and there's a way to respond. So you're making yourself available, saying like, hey, you can get a hold of us. We're a real company. We care about your success. Here's how you can get a hold of us, right? So brand story, free tools. You could even have an archive of past newsletters. This is kind of a cool technique too for like SEO. If you took all your old past newsletters and turned them like, let's say, in a blog post, and then they can click and they can go through past newsletters. And then, just mentioned blog post. That's really great. Give them access to content. And then I would definitely support all your social channels, right? So where are you on social? Are you active on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube? Where can you be found? And so by getting that information out there, think about this. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 emails. So someone immediately signs up, and now you can just give them more free, cool stuff, ways to know you, like you, trust you more. And all of that is certainly going to increase the ability to get a customer and to keep a customer, to build a brand advocate. And again, this is just something that you build and it's done and it just runs. And then you just look at the data and you figure out how can we make it better, or could we improve this or do that. So most brands don't have something like this. Super easy to do. Super, super easy to do. All right. So let's take a look now at phone. So I'll only take a second on this. So this really depends on kind of what your process is. If somebody calls in, obviously they're calling for different things. So you got support, you got sales, a few different things you could do. One is, like our software, what we have is we have this thing called a missed call text back. So this is an automation that if, for some reason you missed a phone call, you can automatically text that number back and say, hey, sorry we missed your call. How can we help you out? All right. And that's especially if you're like a small shop or something like that, and you don't have like someone actually answering the phones, manning the phones. It's a good way to get people, yeah, hey, sorry, I was trying to get a hold of Tom. Or it's also a good way to kind of weed out spammers and people that are just, kind of auto robo-dialing and stuff like that. But the missed call text back is pretty cool. But again, thinking of this idea of sales, support, your different avenues, right? When somebody called in for these reasons, why not have a canned response for after they're done, right? If they had a support, you should have a canned email where you go back and be like, hey, we hope we answered all your questions. The big businesses do this. The enterprise companies, they do this. It's also hooked up to their call center technology and all this. But if you're a small shop, you got 5-10 people, you're probably not like having automatic, review requests. How do we take care of your call? How can we help you kind of things? But it's super simple to do. It's literally a canned email. That call comes in, you push one button and boom, it automatically sends it off. And it's just a good way to keep track of, how well you're taking care of people and just showing them that you care. All right. So those were like 3 ideas in one. So our number 1 was like 3 long. All right. Here, I'm going to make this a little faster. All right. Let's do it like that. All right. So number 2. Post-purchase. I literally could spend 3 hours talking about what to do with your post-purchase strategy, okay? But again, think about this. So this was actually, if you really want to look at what to do with the post-purchase, I think week 1, we did the how to double your revenue without spending $1 on advertising. Check out that presentation because that goes into basically like the 8 fundamental things that we should be doing after. But I'll give you kind of a quick recap. So again, you got to think when someone's purchased something from you, that is a super key moment. It's a super key moment. They have trusted you. They have pulled out their credit card. They bought a thing. They're waiting for you to deliver on the product or whatever that you sent, right? So obviously you got things like your receipts and your things like that. But here are some other things, and it's going to be super short recap because I, again, could spend an hour just on this, but go check out that presentation, how to double your revenue. And if you don't know where it is, just put a comment and we'll send you over a link on how to get to it. But how to double your revenue. So think about this. First thing you can do when you have something that comes in here is set up your onboarding. So onboarding. So what is your onboarding process? Now, again, I'm talking mostly to service companies here, but why not send them an email immediately showing them what the onboarding strategy process is going to be like? So again, especially like if you're like in marketing, consulting, IT, MSP, like a lot of what we do almost seems like I've literally had this. I renounce all forms of black magic, but I have had literally clients say that to me, like, you guys are like doing magic. And it's like, no, it's just, it's SEO, it's a funnel, it's a this, but it's just so abstract to people that it might as well be from outer space. It's Marvel. Like they don't get it. So one thing you've got to do is if you have something that's complex and that's really behind the scenes, you need to like materialize what your process is. So email them and list out like, hey, these are the steps. You're going to have, a call here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And you have an email where you're literally showing them exactly what you're going to do, what you're getting into. And this can just create a lot of peace, especially like if you have timelines. Timelines are super important. I'll tell you right now, if you don't set expectations, you're going to disappoint people. And even if you do set expectations clearly, you're still going to disappoint people. So you've got to be, in a service business, you got to be super clear about like what that onboarding process looks like, and make sure that's some of the first emails that you're sending off. All right. So next thing, let's get people, let's make sure we got people in your social. So again, we just talked about that on the last one is welcome. But you want to make sure that you're getting people in your social networks, especially if you have a private social community, which I definitely recommend with all, things change quite often in the social media world. So I do recommend you having your own kind of community. And so what do you need to do to create that kind of social dynamic? Get people together. Well, send them emails, get them all locked up. What else can we do? Oh yeah, here's a really good one. Surveys. Surveys are huge. I'll talk about more how you can use surveys in another number. But after someone's purchased, ask them what they felt. How did this work? How did you like it? Do you enjoy it? Do you have everything, right? So one of the most common surveys out there is called an NPS, a Net Promoter Score survey. And even if you don't know that phrase, you've probably been a part of a Net Promoter Score survey in the past. And it says on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to someone else? Right? So you should definitely send that off. And that type of a survey will give you a good lens on how well they, they're satisfied with what you're doing. And then you create automation based on their result, right? So if it was like a negative response, well, send them to your customer support. If it's a positive response, rush for time, I'm starting to get real doctor handwriting here. If it's a positive response saying like, yeah, 10 out of 10, I definitely recommend you. Well, why don't you ask for a referral? What's a better time to ask for a referral than when your customer just said 10 out of 10, I would definitely recommend you. Now, that's a great way. That's a great time to do it, right? So that's a great thing to do post-purchase. I'll talk a little bit more about that because that's like kind of customer satisfaction, which is one of the other 10 that I had on here. But the real thing for you should be focusing on here is what are your upsells, downsells, which kind of something silly, but cross sells. Okay. So if someone bought this, what other products could you upgrade them to? What other accessories and tools could they get to enhance their purchase? And then are there other kind of smaller price products and things like that they could add on, to their subscription? A downsell is typically when somebody says no to something, you downsell into it. But you got your whole product line. You got to realize when somebody purchases something, how can you move them to get a greater adoption of your products and services? All right. And again, if you think of automation, if you bought this, you'd probably buy that. If you go to any of those like super electronic, I'm trying to say Fry's Electronics, but I think they actually went out of business. I used to love Fry's back in California. But, like these kind of tools, they actually make more money selling the accessories. Actually, anyone who sells a TV, the margins on like TVs right now are like, they're non-existent, right? Like you go to a place, you go buy a 60-inch flat screen. It's so competitive. There's barely any margin in selling the TV. So where do they make their money? They make their money in their HDMI cables, in their stands, and all the accessories that go along with it. And so you got to be thinking about, when I sell my core product service offering, what other elements or products or things can I offer? And this could be like, you might not even have them invented yet. You got to be thinking about that. Like, if I'm serving my customer in this space, what are the other things that I could offer that would maximize their enjoyment of what they just purchased? Because that's the thing, is like, if they don't buy it from you, they're going to go on Amazon, or they're going to go to another service provider, or whatever the case may be. Like, take care of your people, right? Take care of your people. The last thing I'm going to share about post-purchase is, I truly recommend that you take care of your best people. Okay, so good old law of 80-20. 80% of your revenue probably comes from 20% of your customers. And if you're saying, well, no, 20% don't buy 80%, but I'll say this, that 20%, the referrals that they send you, the reviews that they left, they probably impact 80% of your revenue. It's pretty much the same across every business. Sometimes it's even more dramatic. 90% of the revenue comes from 10% of the customers. So if that's the case, what can you do to treat your top 10, 20% of customers differently? How can you take care of your VIP? If you got people that are sending you referrals all the time, you should have automation in place that understands, like, wow, like Tom sent us, 3 referrals in the last 3 months, or they spent, $10,000 in the last 6 months, whatever the case may be about your particular business that constitute them to be a VIP. Well, make that trigger some kind of internal notification. You know what? Get a gift card to a great steakhouse. Send it over to them. Bless them. Take care of the people that are taking care of your business. And that is a fantastic a tool for continual growth and expansion of your business. And so, again, check out that. This is a loaded one for me post-purchase. I can go on this one forever. So make sure you check out that other one that we did. I'm pretty sure Chel's probably put the link in the thing. Getting a little head nod. So yeah, the links are in the comments. So make sure you check out that one for sure. All right. Wow, I'm only on number 3. I should have done top 3. We're gonna be doing a part 2, maybe a part 3 of this. Okay, so we talked about welcome communication. What do we do when somebody first introduces? Post-purchase, what do we do when somebody has just purchased? Now, I also want to talk about the concept, which this is different than a welcome communication, but I want to talk about the concept of lead nurturing. So the difference between like lead nurturing and your contact form could be a lead, but you should have some sort of tool that is driving awareness, and one of the things, the most common name for that is like a lead magnet. And so a lead magnet, meaning what kind of free thing are you offering in order to get people who would be attracted to your products and services attracted, right? So like it could be as simple as like a free quote, right? It could be like, let's say you're in telecom or MSP or IT or something. You might be doing some kind of cost analysis, right? We'll look at how much you're spending on all these places and give you kind of, cost analysis. We'll come by and do a free quote. It could be a white paper. It could be an ebook. We talked about this stuff yesterday a little bit about cool macro assets that you can give away. But once you get someone to take advantage of your offer, right? And we'll just call that. And this is kind of like, it's a free offer. And when we get somebody to take advantage of this free offer, what do you do with it? Right? What do you do? And so obviously in this sequence, you got to deliver, first of all. Meaning you got to deliver the offer. What did you say you were going to do? What did you say you're going to do for free? You got to make sure you deliver it. It could be a link to a course. Could be, again, a small project that you do for them, like a cost analysis or something like that. But you've got to deliver. The next thing you got to do is clearly define the next step. What do you want them to do next? Right. And this should be obviously like, hey, let's get on the phone and talk more about pricing. Let's do this. Let's do that. Get them to the next step. Right. So the other thing that you want to do is you got to think in this stage of the customer journey, we're past I know you, and we're in the midst of the do I like you. They're still trying to figure out if I like you or not. Right. So this is the bridge, if you will, from getting someone's loose contact information to getting like a legit sales opportunity. So one of the other aspects of this, which is huge, is social proof. Social proof. So social proof is why I really spelled that bad. Social proof is huge. So this could be testimonies. This could be people on social media that left different comments, different things like that. Testimonials are huge. You should be collecting testimonials. So how have you served your customers in the past? How have you, what is their experience? And in their own words, whether written, better if it's in video, them sharing their experience about how they like what you did and who you were. Similar to that would be a case study. How can you demonstrate with data that, hey, we did this before for these companies, and when we did it, their company went from here to here. Or when we did this for this person's lawn, it used to look like this, and then now it looks like this. Whatever the case may be, before and after, right? So you got social proof is people telling their experience. Case studies are you showing a before. Before they worked with us, this was the situation. After they worked with us, this is the situation. And then again, you got to lead to your main CTA, your main call to action, which be like, hey, click this link to buy, click this link to set up an appointment, whatever the case may be, but you want to make sure you always organize it. So I mentioned this, I lose track of the days. I think it was yesterday I was talking about this. But the best way with any of your lead nurturing content is to follow an 80-20 approach. And I call it PAS, problem, agitate, solve. So with any of your communication, you want 80% to be valuable. Like it's an interesting nugget, the case study, the everything, like, oh yeah, like that's interesting. I got something from consuming that data. 20% or less, make it the call to action. So you got to think, here's this great testimony, here's the story, here's this, that was a really great nugget. Oh, case study, I didn't think about that. Then the bottom 20% of your communication, the email, the text message, the landing page, the social media posts, the video, whatever you created, should be like, hey, I hope you found a lot of value in this. As you can see, Tom was really blessed by the work we did. Now I'd love to invite you to hop on your own discovery call. Click on this link and you can schedule a 15-minute discovery call with us and we'll see if we're a good fit. So 80-20. Now the PAS should be this idea of problem, agitate, solve. So whether this is your content, a case study, or a testimony, and if you got to support people in creating great testimonies, that's how you do it. Make sure they clearly communicate what was the problem. Our yard looked like this total train wreck. It was a mess. And then agitate. So you ask them, well, what did that feel like? Oh, we hated it. We had the worst yard in the neighborhood. It always felt like embarrassing when people came over. Right? So now you're resonating with people. But you don't want to leave them in a point of distress. Then solve it and say, well, what happened? How did we fix it? It's like, oh, well, you guys came in, you did this, this, and this, and now it's amazing. And everybody comes over and asks, who are we working with? And so problem, agitate, solve. You can do that in your own content. You can do that as a case study. You can do that as social proof. Problem, agitate, solve. Because what's going to happen is those that have the same problem are going to immediately resonate. The agitation is going to create that moment where it's like, yeah, I don't like this. I'm sick and tired of this. And then you become the solution. So in order for them to solve this problem that they know they have, they're going to reach out to you. They're going to do the CTA because you're the solution to their problem. So any kind of content, any kind of messaging, if you follow that PAS strategy, you're going to do pretty good. All right. I think we got time for one more. Let's do one more of these. So where are we at? I figure out a better way to erase. All right. Appointment reminders. All right, number 4. We'll stop at number 4 and we'll pick this back up again. Appointment reminders. This is one that's actually quite personal to me right now. So appointment reminders. So what do you do after someone sets an appointment, right? And this could be like you got your sales team reaching out to people, or you have a place on your website where people can set an appointment. They can, do certain things. And so they set the appointment, and the appointment is for a certain time in the future. What do you do to to make sure that you have a high of show rate as possible? So you got to think that's kind of the task. You got a set, and then you have a show rate. And so there's a lot that can happen in the middle of that, right? And so again, certain people will set an appointment because they were influenced by your salesperson. They'll set it because they were inspired in the moment, but then life got busy, things happened, they just didn't show up. And so what you do in between is super important. And so we've been actually having this. So we have a sales team, and one of the problems we're facing is we're not getting a high enough show rate. And so we're actually revamping right now our appointment reminder schedule. So, this happens. We're like, and this is exactly, you build something, and then you're like, this isn't working as well. We're not getting a high enough show rate. So what could we do to make it better? So for us, what we were doing is just sending email reminders, all 3 of these. And that's not bad to send email reminders. But what we're going to be split testing right now is we're also going to send text for each of those, text reminders. And we're adding something a little fun to what we're doing. So in each of these reminders, rather than just saying, hi, your appointment is Thursday at 1:30 p.m., we're going to add personality, because I don't know if you noticed, but we have personality around here. So if you remember, my famous son here.
Hey guys, welcome back, and make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and make sure to hit that bell for notifications.
So he was kind enough to do this awesome video shoot for us. So what he also recorded during this time, which we're going to start implementing, is he already recorded the videos. He's a natural at this. But there's one that says, hey, you got an appointment with my dad tomorrow. Make sure you show up. And it's all like, super cute. He's got another one right an hour before. It's like, you got to call my dad in an hour. Don't be late. And it's just, it's fun. It's creative. It's totally like our kind of thing. And he's super adorable. You can't be mad at him. He even has another one. I got to figure out where to put it. It's really great. He's got his feet up on this desk right here. So he's got his feet up on the desk. He's leaning back, and he goes, hey, this is going to be my business someday, so you better buy something. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. And that's really him. That's just how he rolls. So that's something creative we're going to run. So now, so we've had a certain show rate, right? We've had a certain number. So like out of 10, we're sending these emails, and a certain percentage have shown. Now we're going to take a test, and we're going to do something. So now we're going to automate text messages. We're going to automate like a video link. We're going to add some dynamic, kind of copy, and, have a like a little visual of a video with Braden on it. You can click on the link, and then we're going to run this. And then guess what? The data is going to tell us what we did. And so now, that's optimization. Again, I'm getting into another video here, but by us automating it, I have 2 threads that have been running the same way over a set period of time. And when I have enough data, I can clearly look and say, you know what? Option 2 is exceeding option 1. Let's make that the standard, and we're going to kind of go on and repeat that. Now, that's going to be really hard to do if you don't automate it. It's going to be really hard to do if you expect your salespeople to be the ones to follow up with these messages. They set an appointment, and then they're responsible for following up. That's going to be really hard. Why? Because each salesperson's probably going to send something different. They're going to literally write different words. they're going to do it at different time intervals. Was it exactly 24 hours before, or was it 20? Was it 6 hours before? There's too much variance. There's too much variance for you to actually see what, if it's statistically significant, they call it, because there's too much variance. So by building an automation system, you now have something really clear. This is exactly how it works. And then you have a new version clearly defined in version 1 versus version 2. One works better, one doesn't. You keep the one that works better, and you keep trying to beat the control. So, all right. So this was the top 4 of our top 10 things to automate in your business. We will continue this again, but I hope you've already come up with some ideas and some things you could do to automate your business. Remember, we went over welcome, post-purchase. We went over the lead nurturing and appointment reminders. So we'll go through the remainder of them on another live. It's called a hook. Get you to come back. Watch another one. So anyway, it is Thursday, February 1st. I feel like praying a blessing over everybody. Let's do that. So, Father, I just thank you, Lord, for everybody who's watching this video. I thank you, God, that you're even the God of automation. You're in all the details. You love your kids so much. You love your people so much. And so, Lord, I just pray for inspiration. I pray, Lord, that you would give your people unique ways that they could automate and run their business so they can be super successful. They can serve so many people. They can take such great care of their employees. They can pay their employees more money than anybody else in their industry because of the way that you bless them. And so, Lord, I just thank you for your favor. I thank you for your spirit, your grace to pour all over the work of our hands. We give you all the glory and all the praise in advance. We love you, Lord. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Amen. And just like I say, we are very sincere about who we are. We love business, we love entrepreneurs, and we love Jesus. And don't try to push it on you, but I do want to say that if you don't know the Lord and you want to know this Jesus that I just prayed to, go over to intentcompany.com/live. And at the very bottom of the page, you can just hear my story. You can hear my story, how I went from drug addict, drug dealer, atheist, to entrepreneur, family man, and somebody's just really, my life's been radically changed. And so got to be clear about that. Got to give the opportunity. So I hope that you would check out that video and hear more about my story. But I do appreciate you guys so much. And I trust the stuff is helping you guys, that there's seeds are being sown. There's nuggets you're going to grab hold of to see your businesses thrive. So we'll see you again tomorrow at 12 p.m. Central Time. And I think we'll dig in. Actually, I think we'll dig in on some scripture. The Lord usually puts something on my heart on Fridays to share. So we will do that tomorrow. So 12 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, February 2nd. Have an amazing day, an amazing first day of February. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.